that after all the discussions that we have had since yesterday, so how do we really scale circularity? And since yesterday, we said that we have heard that circular economy is a response to urgent priorities for Africa. Matthias went further this morning and said that the world is on fire, and we have emphasized throughout the meeting that African countries need jobs, African countries to move to climate resilience, African countries need more water, African economies need to grow, and we have agreed that circular economy is actually a response to all those things. And therefore, we, as I say, are going to have this session as a forward-looking session to look at how we can now realize circular economy results at scale at country level. Through harmonization of policies, alignment, investment, financing, technology, and innovation. And the preface to this is that many of the countries that are here, and actually who are going to be speaking, most of them are ACEA members. And therefore, there's already a commitment to circular economy among these countries. And therefore, what next? And how do we scale circular economy at national level? I have a very powerful panel, which comprises of Mr. Dumisani from South Africa, Mr. Didier GBOCHO from Cote d'Ivoire, representing ECOWAS sub-region. We have Mr. Gemechu, representing the East African Community sub-region, and then Madame Anju Gura, representing the IOC region. But we also have a representative of a municipality. Mr. Hussein Ahmed will be speaking to what the municipalities can do to scale up circular economy. But before we can go to the panel, I want to take this opportunity to invite Mr. Gezai to give us a short presentation on the Finnish government experience on in-country circular economy development. We don't have a lot of time, and have kindly requested, and Mr. Gemechu has accepted, that we spend close to 7 minutes to do good justice to it. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Charles. Excellencies, distinguished representatives of the African Union, the African Development Bank, EU, the UN agencies, and member states. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Gazani Alemu from the Embassy of Finland, and it is my an honor to address you today at this important gathering of the African Circular Economy Alliance. I bring warm greetings from the Ministry for Foreign Affairs of Finland, as well as from Her Excellency Ambassador Sinikka Anttila, Ambassador of Finland to Ethiopia, who was here yesterday in the first session, and the entire Finnish team. We thank you, really, the organizers, sincerely for this opportunity to share experiences and strengthen our shared commitment to building resilient, inclusive, and circular economies. In many ways, as it has been discussed for long, the circular economy is not a new concept. Across Africa, and particularly within Ethiopia, practices such as reusing, repairing, composting, and extending the life of products have long been part of everyday life. These deeply rooted traditions may not always have been labeled circular, but they embody its essence. What is new, however, is the urgency. The linear model of take, make, waste is no longer sustainable. We must now transform our systems, in fact, step by step, into circular economies where resources are kept and used, values preserved, and waste is designed at. With this introduction, I would like to bring your attention first to share the Finland's experience in advancing circular economy. Finland is among the global frontrunners in this transition. Finland was the first country in the world to adopt a national circular economy roadmap already in 2016, and since then it has launched a comprehensive national strategy to guide our efforts. The overarching goal of the government of Finland is clear. It is to become carbon neutral by 2035. Finland's approach to the circular economy goes far beyond recycling. You may have heard that Finland recycles 95% of beverage cans, 90% of plastic bottles, and 87% of glass. That would transformation like, in fact, in how to design, produce, and consume. As a member of the European Union, Finland aligns with the EU Circular Economy Action Plan, which establishes binding targets and fosters a common market for sustainable solutions. At the same time, Finland continues to pioneer innovative approaches tailored to the national context. In practice, circular economy ecosystem like the one in the city of Nokia illustrates this journey. There at Nokia City, the municipality provides infrastructure, universities lead research and capacity building, and over 40 companies operate collaboratively. Industrial byproducts are transformed into new raw materials, innovation flourishes, and landfilling has nearly disappeared. So this leads us to the idea of how companies are creating tangible impact. For example, the company called TraceGrow recycles used batteries to extract zinc and manganese, turning them into micronutrient fertilizers that improve agricultural productivity. The company Reverse Cycle is collecting plastic waste from rivers before it reaches the ocean, working not only in Europe but also here in Africa. The company Blou Solution produces sustainable building materials from recycled plastics and biocomposites, supporting local construction needs. Blou Solutions also operate here in Africa. So, with this idea, I would like also to take you to the key lessons, what we can learn from Finland's circular economy journey. From Finland's experience, we can derive several important lessons that can guide Africa's circular transition. For example, we can say that holistic approaches are critical. Circular economy is not just about waste management or recycling. It requires rethinking product design, consumption habits, and business models. Additionally, innovation and collaboration drive success. The city of Nokia, as an example, is an ecosystem shows how local governments, academia, and industry can work together to create thriving circular hubs. Data and digitalization matter. Reliable data and digital platforms enable material flow tracking, transparency, and efficient resource management. These tools help, in fact, business and policymakers make informed decisions. The other factor or key lesson is support for SMEs and entrepreneurs is essential. As it has been discussed here in this meeting, many circular economy solutions come from small and medium enterprises. Providing them with financing, training, and networks accelerate innovation and job creation. The other important key lesson is local context and tradition should be valued. Circular practices are often rooted in traditional behaviors. Embracing and modernizing this can create culturally appropriate and sustainable solutions. So, from these key lessons, we can also add the enabling policy frameworks. Effective policy frameworks are a cornerstone of advancing circular economies. So, Finland experience highlights three key pillars. The first is infrastructure and technology. Governments need to invest in efficient waste management systems and scalable technologies that enable circular practices to take root and grow. Policy and legislation. Clear laws, incentives, and enforcement mechanisms encourage businesses to innovate and adopt circular models. Policy coherence across sectors help remove barriers and create certainty for investors. The last factor is education and mindset. Embedding circular thinking into education at all levels equips young people, women, and communities with the skills to lead in the green economy. Changing mindsets fosters acceptance and participation in circular initiatives. Together, these pillars build a supportive environment where innovation thrives, jobs are created, economies become more resilient, and environmental sustainability is achieved. With this, I would like to conclude by saying the circular economy at its core is all about people. It is about empowering young entrepreneurs, enabling women to lead new value chains, and ensuring that community benefits from better jobs, resilience, and healthier environments. Forums like the ACEA annual meeting are invaluable because they bring together national governments, the African Union, UN agencies, regional communities, the private sector, and development partners. Through this collaboration, we can align efforts, harmonize policies, and catalyze meaningful investment. Finland is proud to support this journey, not only through funding and partnerships, but through shared learning and deep respect for Africa's leadership in this space. Thank you so much.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Kezain. I think you have laid a very good foundation upon which the member states here can build on. It is very clear that a number of things that you have said resonate with Africa, where we know that circular economy is not actually very new. If you go back ages and even a few years ago, you'll see a lot of circular economy in action. But I think I like what you say. What has changed actually the urgency to scale up, the urgency to make sure that we have everybody engaged in this war. And you have clearly said for Finland, national framework is very key. All actors are involved, the cities are involved, innovation is very key. The companies and businesses are involved, and now circular economy seems to be a way of life in Finland through holistic approaches, data and digital transformation playing a key role, and education and mindset shift is of course ongoing process. With that, I now would like to go to our first panelist, who will address 4 questions. And these questions are similar to all the member states here. How will the government, your respective government, work with all ministries and partners to ensure nationally owned inclusive circular economy development? And how will your government facilitate innovation? And how will your government ensure that circular economy financing is prioritized and is inclusive, including at local government? And how will your government facilitate the adoption and mainstreaming of harmonized policies, standards on circular economy? Of course, building on the African Union Circular Economy Action Plan, also standards, CFTA instruments, and so on. So these are questions that all of you will be responding to. Let me begin by inviting Mr. Buthelezi to take the next 3 minutes to address this question. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, Chairperson. 3 minutes, it's a little because I prepared a speech here, but it's fine. On a lighter note, we need to indicate that South Africa has made it to the World Cup for 2026 in the USA. So maybe we need to say thank you to Rwanda. We were playing with Rwanda yesterday. Thank you very much. Yeah. So thank you for the opportunity, Chairperson. I think yesterday we went through quite a number of presentations that actually laid a foundation for this discussion, and like I indicated earlier on, and I've heard people saying good stories coming from South Africa with regards to the transition to circular economy. But Chairperson and colleagues, I just need to indicate that it all goes back to a firm foundation of planning. South Africa launched a national development plan in as early as 2005. And that plan, it's just a blueprint which indicates our aspirations for the future. How do we see South Africa becoming part of the global community? How do we see technology assisting us to move through and achieve and address many areas from education, health, housing, and so on and so forth. But there's also an element that talks to transitioning to low carbon future. And from that element, ministries would understand that this is a shared responsibility, because the plan does not specify that it should be the Environment Ministry or the Trade and Industry Ministry. But we appreciate that because this is a transition from a traditional economy to a new sort of economy, we need to prioritize ministries that are central to this work. That would be your Trade, Industry and Competition Department, your Department of Science, Technology and Innovation, which drives R&D in many areas, including circular economy. But you have other departments such as the Department of Agriculture, Rural Development, who have a share or a contribution on circular economy matters. It just depends on the issue that is at hand. But ministers, or ministries rather, would have a clear understanding of our collective contribution to this. So therefore our efforts are controlled by what we call the Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation. This is where everything is well coordinated. If there is an issue around solar parks, for instance, or renewable energy independent power producers, everyone would be asked to make a contribution. This is just a practical example. And therefore that coordination mechanism actually assists us to achieve and have clear goals on what needs to happen going forward. The Department of Trade and Industry, for instance, runs, well, they are responsible for the industrial policy in the country, but over the past 10 years, we've seen them joining the queue on the transition to circular economy. I mean, they've established the Green Industries Trade and Investment section. They are purely focusing on environment, on investment related to circular economy, let's say that. They are also funding 100% the National Cleaner Production Center that does quite a lot of work on our ECP and cleaner production in different sectors, focusing on water efficiency, energy efficiency, and materials efficiency, and that should be waste basically. And we therefore have the Department of Science and Technology that coordinates all activities around R&D. And that is why yesterday one of the presentations indicated that there is CSIR that is self-funded, and it has done some work in some specific area. This self-funding comes from the Department of Science and Innovation. It's a 5-year, they've got a 5-year strategy on how the country would transition from where we are to what we call a circular future. And therefore they've allocated funding to different sectors to try and respond to critical questions, and we're receiving those. CSIR has just recently published some of the sectors that would make sense for South Africa to invest in, either through government or blended financial mechanism. And therefore, the responsibility of managing, for instance, waste management, is shared across the three spheres of government: national, provincial, and local government. I need to be honest, it's always a struggle to manage that relationship. However, we have established international forums to coordinate that work, just to ensure that whatever that we set ourselves for to achieve in the circular economy strategy that we're about to complete, it's got actions at the end of the documents to say who is responsible for what action and who will deliver, or when will a specific item be delivered. So that's another coordination role or mechanism that we've employed. And in terms of innovation, I think we appreciate the work that CSIR is doing, but we welcome support from international donor agencies. We welcome support from international research institutions. However, we also want to partner with different countries or different entities that have an interest in showcasing the potential of circular economy in Africa or in South Africa. So the relationship in the SADC, it's quite clear. We are supporting a lot of work that is coming from that region, and we therefore want to continue exploring that. Well, lastly, we've got the National Research Foundation chairperson that funds Africans. It's not only South Africans, funds Africans who look at various topics that relate to circular economy and related areas. So I'm just trying to finalize here, Chairperson. And in the area around standards, we've got agencies that are a responsibility of several government departments. I can count the South African Bureau of Standards, which is currently coordinating their work on circular economy, and we are sitting on that. There's also proposals to develop a harmonized standards for labeling to support responsible recycling. We are supporting that. There's more work that is going to that. And we also have the extended producer responsibility regulations instrument, sort of. In that instrument, we are pushing for producers to develop life cycle assessments in support of what would go into their EPR fees or motivation for inclusion of products or exclusion of products in the EPR. And we therefore believe that such work has given us a foundation to explore what needs to happen at home, what is relevant in the region or in the continent, and what needs to happen international, or what sort of assistance would require international. But we are willing to work with the colleagues who presented on standard matters yesterday to partner with them to explore or unblock other areas that need urgent attention from the perspective of standards development. I think partnerships are quite critical, Chair, but I just need to emphasize that we do not always want money. We are also ready to partner to exchange knowledge, because we've done a lot of work across many areas of circular economy. So we're ready to partner, exchange knowledge or information, but we won't refuse money. If it's there, please assist. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Viteles. You made two very important statements, but a little bit contradictory. You said that it's not always about money. So what you're going to do and requires to be done, it's not always about money. But he also said, well, you not refuse money, so, which is a good way of looking at it. Okay, but thank you very much. I think what South Africa has done there is lay down what actually they have been doing and they will continue doing in order to drive all the things that we talked about, including prioritizing ministries. I think that is very key going forward. Who are you going to work with in your ministries? And particularly working with the Department of Planning is very key, making sure going forward they're engaged, working with the National Research Foundation, standards, labeling, all those are very key, and of course the EPR regulations. Thank you so very much. And I would like to encourage the rest of the panelists really to be forward-looking now that you have heard the challenges and opportunities. What are you committing yourselves to doing when you go back home? And these questions that we post here are not only for the panelists here, they should also be answered by the rest of the ACEA member states that are here. And eventually when I come the floor, I'm hoping that I will hear some of your commitments as well in terms of all these aspects that I'm pointing out here. Okay, thank you so very much. Now let's go to the next panelist who will also take 3 minutes. That is Mr. Didier GBOCHO from Cote d'Ivoire. You have 3 minutes.
Merci de me donner la parole pour intervenir au nom de la Côte d'Ivoire. 3 minutes, vraiment c'est peu, vu l'importance des questions que nous sommes en train de débattre. J'espère que nous sommes déjà en Afrique, en Éthiopie, on n'ira nulle part, nous sommes venus pour ça. Donc permettez-nous d'avoir assez de temps pour mieux décortiquer l'aspect économique circulaire, afin que la circularité ne nous surprenne pas un jour. Mais c'est bien la Côte d'Ivoire, vous la connaissez tous, hein, c'est le pays de Didier qui vient aussi d'être qualifié en battant le Kenya 3-0 et premier de sa poule avec 26 points. Donc on ira aussi en mondial avec l'Afrique du Sud. Peut-être que nous serons adversaires et puis on va les battre pour prendre la Coupe du Monde. Bref, vous savez, l'intervention nous a fait savoir que l'économie circulaire n'est pas nouvelle. Moi j'ai l'habitude de dire que les Africains que nous sommes nés dans l'économie circulaire. Mais peut-être c'est dans la forme actuelle de l'économie circulaire que les choses se diversifient. Sinon, nos parents, depuis très longtemps, au temps d'Haïdé Sélassié, Boigny, Gemechu pour parler des figures emblématiques de l'Afrique, l'économie circulaire existait très bien. Mais c'est la forme moderne de cette pratique-là qui attire l'attention de tous. Et la Côte d'Ivoire ne veut pas se mettre en marge de cette nouvelle vision, je dirais, de l'humanité. En effet, le pays, comme je disais, est très riche en ressources naturelles, mais malheureusement, avec l'augmentation de la population, nous sommes passés de 16 millions d'hectares de forêt aujourd'hui à moins de 2 millions, on parle de 2 millions, moins de 3 millions. En plus, le secteur privé, qui est même à la base de cette décapitation des ressources, ne profite pas. Les populations se concentraient uniquement à la production du café, du cacao, la commercialisation, mais ils ne profitaient pas aussi des revenus additionnels. Et pourtant, l'économie circulaire nous donne cette possibilité. C'est pourquoi le pays qui veut se faire un pays modèle, un pays parmi les grands du monde, a adopté l'économie circulaire comme une option fondamentale dans sa transformation socio-économique et culturelle. À cet effet, le PND, le Plan national de développement de la Côte d'Ivoire de 2020, même de 2021-2025 passé, a déjà annoncé les couleurs avec l'intégration de l'économie circulaire dans ce plan de développement. Et le prochain plan de développement PND 2020-2030 en cours d'élaboration prend en compte intégralement l'économie circulaire. De plus, l'économie circulaire, pour les questions climatiques, parce que la Côte d'Ivoire s'est donné comme engagement de réduire ses émissions de gaz à effet de serre de 30,41% d'ici 2030. Mais avec la troisième génération des CDR en élaboration, nous voulons augmenter ce capital. On va passer de 30,41 à plus de 40% de réduction des émissions d'effets de gaz et on construit l'économie circulaire pour le faire, d'où l'intégration de l'économie circulaire dans les CDN en 3.0 en élaboration. L'économie circulaire également occupe une place prépondérante dans le nouveau code de l'environnement qui a été adopté en 2023. Et dans cette dynamique, l'État de Côte d'Ivoire s'est doté d'une stratégie nationale intégrée pour la promotion de l'économie circulaire qui vise 4 axes majeurs, notamment le cadre institutionnel et réglementaire qu'il faut renforcer pour mieux dresser la question de l'économie circulaire. Il y a aussi la question de la formation et de l'éducation-formation, parce qu'on souhaiterait que d'ici 2027, tout le corps des citoyens ivoiriens respire économie circulaire, parle économie circulaire, rêve économie circulaire, mange économie circulaire. Et pour ce faire, il faut former. Il faut former la nouvelle génération parce que le monde de demain leur appartiendra. Il y a également, vous voyez, les initiatives sont nombreuses, je l'ai dit tout de suite. Ces initiatives sont portées par le secteur privé, par des organisations de la société civile, mais il faut les valoriser. Et pour cela, la stratégie veut aborder la question de la création des marchés des initiatives d'économie circulaire, des produits recyclés, des produits recyclables, afin de permettre à toutes ces initiatives-là d'aller de l'avant. Et puis, il y a aussi le financement, bien évidemment. Parlons de financement, la stratégie a bien dressé cette question. Si bien que dans la stratégie d'économie circulaire, nous avons fait la répartition de cette manière. Il y a l'État, dont le gouvernement, qui va intervenir, mais l'État ne serait pas le seul organe de financement. Il y a aussi des secteurs privés, les collectivités territoriales, et puis les partenaires techniques qui font déjà beaucoup, mais qui doivent continuer à nous soutenir. Parce que d'aucuns disent que quand on prend des émissions, nous émettons moins. La plus grande émission vient de l'extérieur et puis nous subissons. Donc quoi de plus normal que ceux qui émettent les pollutions et puis nous on en souffle là, nous donnent les moyens nécessaires pour pouvoir faire face à ces difficultés. Donc les partenaires techniques financiers, BAD, PNUD, Union européenne, préparez-vous à agir en conséquence et ne pas confier seulement que la tâche à l'État. Donc la Côte d'Ivoire est encore allée très loin. Vous voyez, avec l'augmentation de la population, nous étions moins de 20 millions. Aujourd'hui, on est à plus de 30 millions d'habitants en Côte d'Ivoire, répartis sur une superficie de 322 000 km². Et puis Abidjan est étouffé. Donc la production des déchets a augmenté. Et cela aussi constitue un problème. Mais Dieu merci, avec l'économie circulaire et la nouvelle vision, la Côte d'Ivoire, en son temps, avait une décharge à ciel ouvert où tous les ordures étaient convoyés. Mais en même temps, ça crée encore des difficultés. Aujourd'hui, en matière d'innovation, la Côte d'Ivoire s'est dotée d'un centre de valorisation et d'enforcement technique des déchets qui se trouve à Kossi-Ouin. Du jour où vous serez en Côte d'Ivoire, contactez-nous pour qu'on puisse vous montrer ce joyeux architectural qui fait la fierté de la Côte d'Ivoire en termes de gestion des déchets. Dorénavant, les déchets sont devenus un problème mineur parce qu'on n'en trouve pratiquement plus en Côte d'Ivoire. La collaboration, c'est tout le monde, toutes les structures qui sont concernées par la mise en œuvre de l'économie circulaire. Le ministère de l'Environnement, dont je suis un directeur central, est l'avant-garde. Mais il n'y a pas que seulement le ministère de l'Environnement. Le ministère, tous les ministères techniques sont intégrés et doivent participer à la mise en œuvre de l'économie circulaire parce qu'il n'y a pas un seul secteur aujourd'hui qui ne produit pas de déchets. Donc que ce soit le ministère de l'Agriculture, le ministère de la Construction, le ministère du Logement, le ministère de l'Assainissement, le ministère du Tourisme, le ministère de la Transformation numérique, même le ministère de l'Économie et le ministère des Finances. Oui, tout ce que nous sommes en train de faire, on dit le nœud de la guerre, c'est l'argent. Donc, il faut les intégrer afin de pouvoir avoir les moyens nécessaires pour pouvoir dresser cette question. Et cette vision n'est pas fausse parce que pour la mise en œuvre de la stratégie, Et pour la réalisation des activités, l'État, à travers le ministère des Finances, vient de nous octroyer, ce n'est pas moi, à la stratégie, 2 milliards 236 millions 50 000 francs pour réaliser 10 activités majeures sur l'économie circulaire. Et si ces activités sont vraiment faites, vous allez voir que quand on prend la Côte d'Ivoire comme un modèle d'économie circulaire en Afrique de l'Ouest, pour le cas même de la CEDEAO, ce n'est pas de façon fortuite. Et comme on m'a donné 3 minutes et puis j'ai profité pour aller un peu plus loin, donc je vais m'arrêter là parce que je sais que vous allez me poser beaucoup de questions, afin que ce qui n'est pas dit soit encore bien dit pour que, au sortir de cette discussion, vous puissiez venir en Côte d'Ivoire sans problème, parce que dorénavant, vous allez respirer l'air frais, l'air normal, l'air circulaire. Je vous remercie.
Thank you so very much, Mr. GBOCHO. I think there are some common themes that are already beginning to emerge across the countries. And I would like to encourage all the countries that are going to be intervening to basically build on what has already been said. You don't need to repeat maybe what the other member states have said. Because from Cote d'Ivoire, I see one of the things that is emerging is the fact that we need to create market for recyclable and recycled products. And I think that's one of the areas that they are going to be focusing on. And of course, building tools and regulatory frameworks, working with the technical partners, and mobilizing government and private sector finance. Of course, building on their national development plans. That's what they are going to do. With that, let me invite Mr. Gemechu. You have heard what your colleague has said, so if you can take 2 minutes, that will be very good for all of us, because we stand in the way of other sessions, including lunch ahead of us. So go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Hundaol from Environmental Protection Authority of Ethiopia, from the Department of Circular Economy. Concerning the mainstreaming of